Hello and welcome back to another Marvel Rivals Hero Guide. You already know what time it is because today we're going to be talking about the one and only Thing. We'll be covering what each of his abilities do, how to best use them in your matches, and some tips and tricks along the way. But if you enjoyed this guide or find it helpful in any way, please consider leaving a like on the channel and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and it lets me know what content y'all want to see. And it keeps you up to date with everything Marvel Rivals. Now let's begin. Let's kick things off with his passive, Unyielding Will. This makes the Thing completely immune to launch up, knockback, and other displacement effects. Now, to be clear, he is only immune to things that would actually move him, so that would be things like Invisible Woman's push or pull, the pull from Moon Knight's Ankh, and the launch of Winter Soldier's uppercuts. He can still be stunned or supped, but he cannot be moved. Moving on, we have his primary fire, which is Rocky Jab. The Thing lets loose a combo of 2 jabs, each doing 40 damage, so 80 total if you land both punches of his burst. Other than that, the range is only 4 meters, so to deal damage with the primary fire and to land your punches, you're gonna have to be pretty close. Next up, we have his right-click Stone Haymaker. When pressed, the Thing will begin to charge up his fist, and after a short charge period, he will charge forward 3 meters with a devastating punch and deal 90 damage to any enemy hits. As always, with this ability, there are a few important things to note. For starters, when you unleash the punch, you will actually move forward 3 meters. Then, at the end of that 3 meters, the punch itself has a range of 8 meters, so you can actually hit people quite far away. Then I mentioned that it does 90 damage, which is true, but since it's a melee attack, it actually goes through shields. So, say you hit a Doctor Strange with his shield up, you'll do 90 damage to both his shield and health, which makes this a great move for shield busting. After this, we got his shift ability, Yancey Street Charge. When pressed, the Thing will charge forward, knocking up any enemy's hits. Then, when the ability button is pressed again, or when the duration runs out, he will do a final slam that leaves behind a zone that prevents the use of mobility abilities. There are actually quite a few things to note for this one. For starters, different parts of the ability deal different damage. The charge knockup does 30 damage, then the final slam does 20 damage, but the zone left behind with the final slam actually does damage over time as well. 15 damage per second actually. So if you hit an enemy with each part of the ability, you'll deal 50 guaranteed damage from the charge and slam, then 15 damage per second for as long as you keep the enemy in the zone. The charge moves at 12 meters per second, the final slam zone has a radius of 8 meters, and you actually gain 200 bonus health on activation, making your charge pushes much more tankier and easier to do. And finally, the cooldown for this ability is 10 seconds. His final normal ability, his E key ability, is Embattled Leap. Now, this is a targeted ability that requires you to be looking at a teammate to be used, but when pressed, the Thing will leap to said ally and apply a damage reduction buff to the both of them for a few seconds. Now, this one is more simple, but still has some things under the hood. Alright, that's my one thing pun. I know it was terrible, but I had to get it out. Anyways, the damage reduction is 30% for 3 seconds. So it doesn't last a super long time, so you're really going to need to time when you leap and when you hit your ally with the buff to actually save them. But when you do, it's going to basically cut that damage by a third, which in a lot of cases is going to save your teammate. Other than that, the range is 20 meters, you get 2 charges with a 3-second cooldown before you can use each charge back to back, and a 10-second cooldown to actually get a charge of the ability back for use. So if you have 2 charges, you can use 1 charge, but you have to wait 3 seconds and then you can use another, but if you're completely out of charges, it takes 10 seconds to get 1 back. Finally, we get to the Thing's ultimate, Clobbering Time. When pressed, the Thing will slam the ground in front of him, creating a massive wave of rocks that will launch enemies into the air and stun them. The wave itself travels at 2 meters every 0.1 seconds until it reaches its maximum distance of 18 meters, which means it hits its max range in about 0.9 seconds. It hits it under a second flat. It also deals 100 damage, stuns the enemy for 2.5 seconds, and launches them into the air. This makes it great for dealing a quick 100 damage to finish anyone off or get them really low, but the real kicker is the 2.5 second stun. That's the good part. You can set up your team to combo their ultimates with yours, or you can use their abilities to just straight up finish any target you stun. It is a great way to set up your team for success, and to really just set up your team for those picks so you can get the numbers advantage and keep up the pressure. Now that we know all of his abilities and what they do, how can we best use him in our matches? Now, the Thing is rated as a 1-star difficulty hero, but being simple and easy to play doesn't mean he can't do numbers or win fights. Speaking of which, the primary way you're going to be dealing damage to the other team is through your punches, both your primary fire punches and your charge punch. If the enemy team is fighting you and staying within your melee range, his primary fire does more damage per second. So if they're actually looking for a fight and they're actually trying to fight you, that's what you should be using. This changes though if the enemy team or the person you're targeting backs off, because his primary fire only has a range of 4 meters, and the thing moves quite slow. So when they're backing off, you should be using your charged punch. The charged punch still deals pretty good damage with 90 damage per charged punch, but what really helps this ability is the forward movement of the punch and the extra bonus health. There are a lot of heroes in this game already, and a lot of them have movement abilities. If you try to chase them down by running and using your primary fire, you're just not going to be able to keep up. But with the 3 meters of forward movement and the 8 meter range of the punch, you can effectively hit anyone within 11 meters of you, which is a lot better than the 4 meters the primary fire provides. The forward movement, although only being 3 meters, still helps you kinda keep pace with the faster heroes if you're doing one charge punch into the next. On top of that, you get 50 bonus health per charge punch, which can help keep you alive as you're chasing people down. Because a lot of the time, they're going to try to fight you back, and the extra 50 bonus health can make it a lot easier for you to survive, and it will, help out your healers because they don't have to heal you quite as much. Going along with his pretty decent damage, the thing has pretty good utility as well in the form of his other abilities. For example, we have Yancey Street Charge, which seems like a pretty simple ability, a run into a slam that does decent damage, but it's so versatile and you can use it in so many situations. You can use the knockup of the run and the slam to cause chaos among the enemy team, displacing enemies along the way, which is always a good thing. Like I always say, it's always a good thing to put an enemy in a place they didn't plan on being in, because they have to waste time and resources getting back to their team or getting into a more favorable position. So anytime you can drag someone out of position, that's good. Then, while they're knocked up in the air, you and your enemies can lay into them and land most of your abilities because you know where they're going to land and you know where they're going to be, so hitting your shots should be a little bit easier. On top of that, the slam's radius prevents the use of mobility abilities on top of the knockup, letting you really keep those enemies locked down for your team to lay into. Seriously, this is a great setup tool for your team, and a well-placed charge and slam can really let your team combo off of you and get some really good picks, if not win an entire team fight. Then, in addition to that, it's a pretty good escape tool. The thing can already not be moved due to his passive, which in most cases allows him to straight up run away if he needs to. If the enemy team is surrounding you and you lost your healers, there's no shame in just running away and regrouping with your team, saving your own life and preventing the enemy from getting that bit of extra ult charge. So yeah, if you're outnumbered, it's clear you're gonna die, and there's nothing you can really do, just run away. Just use the Yancey Street Charge, hightail it in the 180 direction, and regroup. His other utility ability, which also so happens to be a pretty decent escape, is Embattled Leap. On a surface level, this lets you jump to an ally, so you can either get away from the bad spot you're in, or jump to that teammate's aid to get a diver or flanker off of them. It's a great way to quickly get to your teammates to help them out regardless of the situation. But the main stat and focus of this ability is the 30% damage reduction for 3 seconds that both you and the ally get when you leap to them. Now, the duration is short, only 3 seconds, so you do need to time your leap carefully. In a lot of situations, I see Thing players that jump too early, but I promise, sometimes you just gotta be a little patient and actually wait to see that damage coming, because if you use it too early and the effect wears off before that damage comes, you don't get too much value and you don't really save anyone's life. But when you do time it properly, that 30% damage reduction can easily save your teammate and give you a good defensive buff if you wanted to counterattack. Say you leap to an ally and reduce the damage of a Winter Soldier ult. Well, you still got that damage reduction for 2 seconds, so why not be a bit aggressive and punish the Winter Soldier for ulting right in your face? Either way, just keep in mind that you have that defensive buff and you have 2 charges of it. So if you see a big ult coming or just a lot of damage headed for your team, try your best to leap to their aid, give them that defensive buff, and tank that oncoming damage that you just leaped into. Try to jump to them and then try to move in front of your teammates and try to draw that aggro off of them. So yeah, just use it to come to your teammate's aid or to escape if you're in a bad spot. Finally, we have his ultimate, which is honestly pretty simple. It does a nice chunk of damage, but the real strong point is the stun you cause to any enemy's hits. Basically, if you see a bunch of enemies grouped up and you confirm that a teammate or two can combo with you, then there really isn't a bad time to use it. I even use it in a cheeky way. If you're capturing the point or pushing the payload and it only has a few seconds left, try to run in front of your team and hit the enemy team with your ultimate, stunning them and preventing them from getting back in time to contest. Not saying you're going to get the chance to do that a lot, but if you're just freshly wiped the enemy team and you know they're all running back to point, why not try to stun them and stop them and buy your team some extra time? When we put all of this together, I have 2 main combos that I use when I'm playing the Thing. 2 tactics, one when I can go in with my team or my other tank, and another where I'm going in alone. If I can push in with my team or my other tank, I usually push in with them by using Yancey Street Charge, trying to hit up as many people as possible while charging and trying to slam on the supports or the squishy targets, because I know that they can be taken out the fastest. And if I can get into their face and tank all the support's hits, then they're going to really have a hard time getting their healing out because I'm going to be in the way and they're going to be too busy dealing with me. From here, I try to melt those weaker targets by using a combination of my primary fire and charged punch, depending on the range that they're at from me and if they're trying to run away. On top of this, I'll also leap directly onto my other tank, even if they're right next to me. This is going to give us both the 30% damage reduction, and since it'll be on both the tanks, it really lets us do our jobs a bit easier and makes it easier for our healers to keep us alive because, we're taking 30% reduced damage for those 3 seconds. After giving myself and the other tank the buff, it's back to punching again, where I'm trying to do as much damage as possible, weaving in my primary fire and my charge punches depending on the range and, how close people are to death. At which point, I'll leap to the other tank again to reapply the buff once it's run out. So I just kind of keep an eye on the timer, make sure I see when the buff runs out, and then I reapply it when I can. From here, if we've made some good picks and we can keep the pressure up, that's what we do, okay? We keep pushing them down and punching them in the face. But if things went south, we can use our Yancey Street charge to get back to safety of our team. Even if that's not back up yet, you can always save a charge of Embattled Leap for a quick exit if you need to. Just use your best judgment and look at the status of your team to see if you should save the leap to exit or if you need to use it to get to a teammate to save them. Like I said, I try to keep one in my back pocket if I need to if the situation's hairy, but if I know I can keep the pressure up, I'll just keep reapplying it to my tank and give us both that damage reduction so we can keep pushing the other team. If I'm the only tank or I'm going in alone, I play things a lot faster and a lot more hit and run. Basically, the combo stays the same, charge in, slam, and punch things, but at this point, depending on how much damage I'm taking and how much healing I'm getting, I use my leap to get back to the safety of my team. I just rinse and repeat this and do as many hit and runs as I need to until a good opportunity to use my ult or combo with a teammate comes up. Even if it's as simple as just a DPS getting a pick on a support, if I see there's a chance for me to apply some pressure, gain some ground, or go in for a pick of my own, I will. But in general, I just play things a lot more safer if I'm the only tank because I don't really have another big old meat sponge to soak up some of the aggro and damage for me. To round out this guide, I want to cover some of the heroes the thing combos well with and some of the heroes that can counter him easily. For combos, I think he works well with other tanks that can go in with him and apply pressure. These are more of the mobile tanks like Venom, the Hulk, Captain America, and to some extent, Doctor Strange. He also combos well with DPS heroes that can take more advantage of his stuns and knockups, like Moon Knight, the Human Torch, Psylocke, and pretty much any DPS with decent AoE or really fast single target damage. For counters, I think he struggles with fast enemies and enemies with stuns. It's true he can't be moved, as in pushed or pulled, but he can still be stunned and slept, so characters like Mantis are going to stop him in his tracks. Other than that, since the thing is so slow, fast characters have an easy time getting around him and attacking his squishies. If you're going against the thing and you see him use his leaps and charge, you basically know they're all on cooldown because you'll watch them use them. You can just straight up run around him and get to your target. Seriously, if you see him use his kit, he's not going to run and catch up to you, any of these fast characters like Psylocke, Star-Lord, Captain America, Iron Fist, or Spider-Man. If he's used his abilities and you know they're on cooldown, he is not going to be able to get to his team fast enough to save them. And that's going to be it for this Thing Hero Guide. I want to hear from you all. What did you think of this guide? How can I make them better? And how excited are you to get out there and play some matches as the Thing? I don't know, so let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so I know that this is the content you want to see. Also, if you're interested, check out the Discord link in my description to my community Discord where I'm trying to get game nights and events and stuff like that going. Anyways, I'm Zululeaks, and I will see you in the next video.